What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. Game number 2 between Jack and QXC. This time we are on Xel'Naga Caverns. Here we go, QXC in the bottom left, spawning as the purple Terran. In the upper right, we do have Jack as the red Zerg. Again, this is game number 2 in the best of 3 series between these two players. QXC ended up winning last game, opening up with some 2 racks pressure, and even in scouting it, Jack decided to go for the Expo. A big problem was that QXC, obviously, in opening up with 2 racks pressure, pushed out with some Marines, was able to drop 2 bunkers at Jack's Expo, and Jack was not able to stop those from getting up, and those Marines would have actually forced the death of that Expo. So Jack, instead of waiting it out, just go ahead and decided to call the GG before it even took place. So there you go. We can see right now QXC again starting off with that depot very, very close to the mineral line, and obviously the reason for this is to stop the lack of mining time when the SCV is running away. If he was going up front for that wall off there, he would be spending a lot of time from here to there not mining. So he'd rather just have him not mine for just a moment, build that, and then just go right back to what he's got going on. You can see right now going for another racks here, and going to be interested to see what he decides to do in terms of formulating a wall off. Part of the reason, obviously, the Terran players go for the depot up front is to get that wall quicker in case of something like a 6-pull, but I'm pretty sure that QXC isn't really too worried about a 6-pull, and he is again actually going to be opening up with the 2 racks here, so going with that 2 racks pressure once more in this game. There's a small little space in between those 2 racks, not really the biggest of deals, though. At least I'm pretty positive that there is. There should be at the very least, so QXC again going to be opening up with some 2 racks pressure. Let's take a look over here for Jack. Jack deciding to go with an opening 1 base play. He actually got that extractor and then the spawning pool. He's going to have enough SPN to get the metabolic boost right away as soon as the spawning pool does finish. Much more safe opener, lets you deal with things like what's about to come much more easily as well. We can see the SCV did manage to squeeze through, so there is obviously that space there. SCV is going to be moving up for QXC into Jack's base, and he's actually going to spot, once he gets there, the fact that Jack did open up on 1 base play, and he's going to have Zerglings relatively early, so he's not going to be nearly as effective with this initial push here. A little bit of a lag spam there because someone was lagging out, and that's why it all pops up at once. So we can see 4 Zerglings, metabolic boost, and a queen coming out right now. This is exactly what I was talking about, opening up with this 1 base play, much more safe. He pulled all of his guys off that extractor, going to allow him to drop this export around 21 supply under an ideal situation. QXC moving on in, he is going to spot the fact that the Zerglings are in play. In fact, he might be losing this SCV. 1 Zergling pulling ahead there to get a couple extra shots there. There we go. Very, very close. The Zergling over here going to be trying to pull to the right side and hopefully trying to cut off the SCV, but needs to be careful because there are a couple Marines here. Even with these early Zerglings, these Marines are going to do very, very well, especially when the Zerglings are not grouped up. Marines, are they going to be going for the Zergling? Yes, they are. Zergling's a little bit too fast, so some Marines going to be pulling back home, and he's actually going to be trying to move in and still going to go for that bunker harassment. We do have 6 Zerglings coming out, though. A couple of workers going down. This is exactly what Jack needed to do last game. I'm glad to see him pull down with those workers to try to stop this placement. He really does not want this to go up. He's got a bunch of Zerglings out now. He should really have no problem. He's got way too many Zerglings, I think, for QXC to deal with. QXC does have a couple more Marines, though. Is it going to be enough? I'm not sure. SCV does go down, so even if these Marines do some damage, that bunker is not going to get up at all. We have no more SCVs on the way either. Just Marines streaming on in. Now, the Marines are going to do a really good job with some proper micro at doing some damage, but again, as you can see, QXC's bunker is not going to get up. The metabolic boost is finished right now, so those speedlings going to be able to mop up those Marines very quickly. I'd hope to see these actually go back home right now. Hopefully those Marines, there we go, some Marines going to be trying to walk back home. Not sure if they're going to make it, though. The Speedlings are going to be able to catch up, no problem. Another Marine trying to move forward to try to assist these guys and help them take out any Speedlings. There we go, dropping the 2, so these Marines are okay for a moment. A couple more Zerglings coming out right now, and actually still building more Zerglings. A little surprised. I would expect Jack, after dealing with that pressure, to just start really droning up hard. He does have another Queen coming out. That's going to get ready to move down to the Expo. Zerglings pulling forward, going to take out these 2 Marines very quickly. These 3 Marines going to do a little bit of damage and actually forcing those Zerglings to push back. They were a little too threatened at that point. There is that depot filling off that full wall off. We can see an Expo is coming, also working up another barracks as well, and those Marines chopping down the Zerglings. The Zerglings were able to get us around on 1. But these 4, again, are a bit too many. Still some more Zerglings coming out for Jack. Again, really surprised. I typically, in a situation like this, would see just heavy droning after that point, but I guess he really is concerned about a continuous push, and actually it looks like QXC is going to try to keep pushing right now. These Marines are pretty effective until they get vastly outnumbered by those Speedlings. They're actually going to do a pretty decent job. Some Marines moving down. They are catching the Speedlings that are mapped over here because they have the Xel'Naga Tower. So right now, at this point, QXC is fully aware that these Zerglings are chilling bailing out on the other side over here. Zerglings catching the SCV completely out of position, but not dropping it. The Marines actually forcing it to push back, so the SCV does manage to survive there. Still more and more Marines coming out. We do have 2 factories coming into play as well. Looks like QXC's going to be switching up into a little bit more of a mech style of play. And again, QXC is going to continue to try to keep up this pressure. The main purpose behind this and what QXC is trying to do is he's trying to force continuous Zergling production from Jack. We can see that Roach Warren coming on in. Obviously, once those Roaches hit the board, these Marines are not going to be nearly as effective. Zerglings trying to push forward, but there is that full wall off right there. Jack was hoping to catch QXC off guard and hoping there may have been a lower depot, but QXC doing the right thing, keeping that depot raised so that he can stop anything like that from happening. Look at that, dropping down that Queen, forcing the cancellation of that Spinecrawler as well. And wow, QXC stopping all mining right now from this expansion. He's forcing tons of Zerglings to be made right now. And actually, QXC is going to do a lot of damage. I really don't expect him to kill this off, but he is doing quite a bit of damage. Roach Warren is up, really surprised that Jack isn't coming out with any Roaches and deciding instead just to build a lot more Zerglings. But Zerglings move forward to get us around. These Marines should be taken care of right now, especially since that Queen's moving here to engage. So finally, now Jack has some breathing room. I really want to see him get some map control, try to take these Zelnaga towers, and then he needs to start to work on his economy. Taking a look right now, 30 and 30. So QXC still on 1 base, managing to stay equal in the worker count from all this harassment. Going to be transferring over this expo sometime soon, I would expect. He is really starting to get oversaturated in this main, so going to want to lift that off, pull it over here, and then actually move over some of those workers. Now, he is trying to work up his army. He does, of course, have this wall off. Looks like he's going to be going for some Infernal Preignite or Hellion harassment after this point, and obviously these Hellions are going to do very, very well against any Zerglings. In fact, he can probably move out now with those Marines as well and do a little bit of damage. So there we go, moving back that barracks and going to get a reactor there. Hellion's going to be moving down. There are a lot of Zerglings here. Does need to be careful about getting surrounded. He is getting a nice lineup there. Those Zerglings all clumped together, so that's actually going to force him to pull back right now. They did not want to get taken out by those Hellions. With some micro, he probably could have taken care of them, but deciding he doesn't really want to risk losing those Zerglings, doesn't want to be forced to build anymore, basically, because right now, like I mentioned, Jack definitely has to focus on his economy. He definitely was hurt a lot by that early constant Marine pressure that we saw from QXC. Taking a look over here, still pumping out those Hellions that are Infernal Preignite are just about finished. We do also have Stimpack almost finished as well. There is still no starport in place, so just going to be working with these barracks and factories for the early stages of the game. As we can see, QXC having his expo up and saturated. Let's take another look at those units there, 35 to 41. So Jack finally starting to pull ahead, but it took him quite a bit of time, and that's a little bit of a dangerous situation. Actually, Jack's probably going to want to look to expand again because he will start to fall behind QXC if he stays on the same number of bases as him for too very long. Right now, Hellions moving across. That Infernal Preigniter is finished, just trying to see if they can catch any Zerglings out of position, try to get some free kills. Going to be forced to run away from those Roaches, though. The Roaches are very, very dangerous to those Hellions. Hellions do almost no damage to the Roaches. Roaches have no problem of dispatching those very quickly. Taking a look over here for Jack, we do have an Infestation Pit coming on out. Baneling Nest is in. We do have level 1 upgrades for those melee attacks as well as those centrifugal hooks coming for those Banelings. So it looks like he is going to be going Speedling Baneling. Also with those Infestors coming into play. Do we see a Spire? I do not believe we do. Right now we do have these Hellions in the main and going to be doing a lot of damage. Jack needs to be very careful. Those Infernal Preigniters do very, very well against the Zerglings. My gosh, roasting them completely. Finally, Roach is moving forward to try to deal with those Hellions. But what is going on? Why are these guys not pulling off the line? The drones are just sitting in the line of fire. I guess he was just expecting those Roaches and Queens to actually take care of that Hellion, no problem, and deciding not to pull them off the line. Does want to target fire those as quickly as possible. Hellion's going to be moving around. QXC had a huge opportunity to do tremendous amounts of damage. He did do a little bit of damage, but definitely not as much as he could have. Again, really surprised that Jack actually decided to just leave these drones here, but I guess it ended up working because he didn't take too much fire. He lost a lot of his Zerglings. That's definitely a big, big problem. A couple more Hellions moving out. Let's take a look at the unit loss tab. We're about equal right now, but if we take a look right here, we can see in terms of workers, QXC has killed 11 drones of Jack, so that's definitely a big advantage. Still some more Hellions moving across. There is Jack with his expo, as expected, moving into his third. That's definitely what he needs to do. Zerglings moving around to get some scouting. They want to see if there's any possible push coming or anything like that. Hellions going right into the natural right now, going to be going straight for those workers, does want to target fire those, and he is completely roasting these workers, and I just got to tell, in the middle of a very exciting moment, so let me go ahead and busy that right there, and wow, again, just destroying the worker count. They're now up to 18 workers killed for QXC. Infernal Pre-Igniter Hellions doing an excellent job for him. Zergling's going to be running right into the natural. What Jack's primarily doing is checking to see if a push is coming, which it looks like it may be, but also checking the Unicomp. He wanted to see exactly what QXC was going with, and wow, QXC is going to be, in fact, going for a third right now here at this high yield. Does he know? Yes, he does know about the third here of Jack, so he again wants to keep up this advantage of being on the same number of bases as his Zerg opponent and trying to get up this high yield. And this is going to be very nice for him. We can see the command center just about finished, going to be floating that on over. Wouldn't be too surprised if he actually goes for a planetary fortress with that, given the fact that it's right in the center of the map and in a little bit of a dangerous position. Taking a look over here for Jack, we can see Infester's out. He does have a bunch of Roaches in play as well. Looks like he really hasn't incorporated Banelings at this point in the game. He's only got 6 Zerglings right now, 2, and we can see the Carpus level 1 is just about finished. Also going to be working up to his Hive Tech right here at his natural expansion, but this is going to be a little bit of a problem for Jack because, again, QXC does have this up, and it's going to be running in just one moment. As soon as this actually goes ahead and lands on over there, really liking the spread here. Also like this defensive position he's got going on, bunkers, turret setup. Definitely going to help a lot if Jack does decide to push. Let's take a look at the army tab. We can see QXC obviously ahead right now, 76 to 44. A little bit of harassment going on behind the mineral line here. Jack just taking a pounding here from QXC. Nice fungal growth though going down from those infestors, and then Roach is going to move forward to mop up, at the very least, force these guys to push back. Marines deciding to turn around to see if they can do a little bit of damage. At the same time, we do have another task force moving forward, trying to do some damage. Going to get a few free Zergling kills here, but then they're going to be taken care of, and actually going to be trying to target fire down an infestor. Very close. Infestor left with just 7 HP. Almost lost that one there. QXC at the third still hasn't actually done anything with this. There we go. Finally going to be changing that into a planetary fortress, again pretty much as expected, given the fact that it is in a little bit of a vulnerable position. We can see Jack still hasn't gotten rid of these rocks. He's not going to be looking to expand there quite as of yet. Working up his army right now, also coming out with an Ultralisk Cavern, so going to be seeing some Ultras. There's that Spire as well. Jack has definitely taken a beating so far this game without returning really much damage at all. Again, taking one more look, we can see Jack's only killed 2 workers so far as opposed to QXC's 21, and Jack's only killed 43 units as opposed to the 77. Now in terms of the resources there, they are about equal, but the major fact is that Jack has lost quite a bit of workers, forcing him to re-drone, and that's definitely not the best of things. Looks like we are going to be seeing Jack actually deciding to go for this expo right here. We did have a scan go down from QXC, so now QXC is fully aware. A couple Marines and Marauders are going to be trying to continue up this harassment. QXC is well known for his ability to basically hit from multiple angles and just be constantly aggressive and harassing. And up on the high ground, going to start killing some workers. At the very least, going to stop mining from here until actually Jack decides to pull down and use something to engage that. Right now, none of his army is actually able to deal with that. Moving forward, though, wasn't able to fund growth, didn't have vision of the high ground, so these Zerglings and Roaches are going to be what's necessary to pull around and actually take care of this small group of Marines and Marauders. But, you know, QXC throwing away these units, yes, obviously the small force of maybe 3 or 4 Marines and a couple Marauders isn't going to be enough to mop up an expo, but the whole point is he stopped the mining, he disrupted the economy of Jack, and that's really what he's trying to do. That is his primary focus. QXC sitting over here with 1 supply depot, going to be scouting any possible pushes. We do have this Overlord looking for any possible drops over here as well. QXC continuing to push forward. My only concern is that the bulk of his forces are spread out amongst a really vast area. That is a little bit concerning. We can see some forces all the way up here, but some forces all the way back here as well. And these tanks, these Marines and Marauders, they are not going to be helping this frontal position at all. So if we see a strong push with the entire force of Jack, he could just basically train right through this one section at a time, and that is very dangerous. Marines and Marauders pushing down again, stopping the mining. Gonna be stimming away, but no fungal growth going down. And it is absurd nowadays how strong fungal growth is against the bio. Even though it's most effective against Marauders. What is Jack doing? Jack laughing. That is very, very bad manners. Not really impressed with that. Wow. So anyways, yes, Jack laughing at QXC. Very surprising that he'd actually, maybe there's something that happened in the game that I completely missed, but that's kind of absurd in all honesty. So anyways, right now, Jack's continuing to work up his forces. Let's take a look over here. 94 to 103 in terms of army supply. So both players just about equal. We can see some very nice macro going on here for QXC. Got a ton of upgrades coming out. Mobius Reactor moving out here for his Ghost as well. So it looks like we may be seeing some Ghost come into play. I don't know if he has any right now. No, he does not. But those are, of course, going to be used for EMP action, allowing him to basically stop those infestors from being quite so effective. Some more harassment going down here at the expo again. Now we can see Jack Jack has decided to move over here, and this is something that QXC is well aware of right now. Gonna be interested to see when he decides and if he decides to actually move down and deal with it. But here we go. Push coming from Jack, deciding to pull back, though. Doesn't really want to walk into that tank fire. And again, look how spread out QXC is, trying to maintain control of the entire center of the map. But again, my only concern is that he may be spread too thin amongst the lines, and he could get hit and basically taken out one section at a time. Small task force of Marines and Marauders, as we've been seeing QXC doing all game, moving down to do some harassment. Hopefully target fires this hatchery instead of going just for the extractor. We do have the forces mobilizing right now of Jack. There are finally some Broodlords into play. Very nice to see that. There's a nice mix of Infestors, Roaches, a couple Zerglings, Ultralists in there as well. A very, very big, dangerous force here from Jack. Still some more harassment going down. QXC continuing this up. Unbelievable, dropping the Expo right there. Wow, very nice by QXC, but here comes the push right now of Jack, and this is quite dangerous. He needs to be careful. He doesn't want to walk into that line of tanks. There's absolutely devastating the amounts of damage he's going to take from that. Moving down with some Broodlords, and actually right now, I do not think that QXC has a lot to deal with these. He only has a few Marines right here. Doesn't look like he has any Vikings whatsoever, so these Broodlords actually have an option to do a lot of damage. Pulling down with what few Marines he does have. We do have 27 Marines total, so hopefully they come into play. Going to be moving down to this Expo, but again, the big dangerous force right here. 3 Broodlords total right now. Going to start to work down at this tank line, and that is very scary right now. And moving down those few Marauders, doing what they can to Ultras over here, but here comes at the same time the big push of Roaches. Infestors mixed in there as well. The Broodlords just taking apart this tank line one piece at a time. And again, as mentioned earlier, the tank line over here not being able to help that at all because he is spread so thin. Those Ultras absolutely tear through that tank line, plus these Broodlords. And again, Jack has lost his Expo over here. Marauder's still trying to do some work over here. Jack also lost the Expo over here, but he is still continuing up his push, walking down into the tanks. Broodlord's very, very slow to engage. It's going to take them quite some time to get over there. Roaches moving forward as well. The tank spread very nice, though. It's so far apart that's actually doing a good job of assembling these guys one bit at a time. But does QXC have enough to deal with these Broodlords? Finally getting some Vikings in play, dropping down some infested Terrans as well. Very nice. Vikings going to be target firing down these Broodlords, and I think Jack is pretty much out right now. Infestors just kind of chilling out over there, not doing much of anything. Marines moving down to try to help deal with this. There's still just one Infestor right now. Vikings should be able to deal with that, but lots of infested Terrans going down still for Jack. Very interesting that he's just kind of dropping those right in the tank fire. I'm not sure how effective that's going to be. Ultras moving down forward as well, and Jack just leaves the game. So there you go. After laughing at QXC, Jack does not even decide to say good game. Wow, look at that. QXC ended up winning. That was a pretty interesting game, I would have to say. We did see this game QXC again for the second game in a row, opening up with some 2 racks pressure. Now, unfortunately for him, Jack actually decided to start the game out with a 1 base opening, allowing him to get some Zerglings and then metabolic boost out relatively early. So the initial push from QXC wasn't all that effective. After that initial push, QXC did in fact decide to continue up that regular Marine aggression, no stim pack, no upgrades at all, and this basically what this did is it forced Jack to have to continuously build Zerglings instead of building workers, so this definitely hurt his economy. It was a really nice play from QXC, did a little bit of harassment, as you can see here, stopped all the mining at that natural expansion. QXC then followed up that opening 2 racks Marine pressure with some infernal pre-igniter harass, and he did a tremendous amount of damage to both the economy and the army of Jack, and this again really set him behind because Jack hadn't done much damage at all to the army and the economy of QXC. After all of that opening game economy harass, QXC had a distinct lead in terms of army size, and as a result he was basically able to throw away units just to do harassment and continue to try to work on the economy of Jack. During the mid-game, we saw QXC take complete map control of the middle of the map, sitting with bunkers and a nice tank spread, as well as turrets and Marines and Marauders just spread all throughout. This gave him, again, complete map control and giving him constant vision as to exactly what was going on. QXC then hit with a 2-pronged attack, first pushing on the 4th of Jack, and then immediately after moving on to the 3rd. This split up Jack's forces and actually allowed QXC to take out both bases just simply because of how quickly stimmed up Marauders can snipe down those hatcheries. After losing both his 3rd and his 4th, Jack realized he was really far behind and had to push out and do some damage, but because of just the massive spread QXC had on the center of the map, he actually wasn't able to break him. Just so many tanks spread out among such a large distance that it was way too difficult for the Roaches, Ultras, Infestors, and Broodlords to actually take him out effectively. So there you have it, guys. That about does it for game number 2 between Jack and QXC. Going to be moving on to game number 3 in just one moment. As always, if you guys like the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Keep watching and keep owning.